Hello everybody, my name is Mike, and judging by the retention on my video,
Interest and it's gone.
what's gonna be is basically the mythic mod for Halo Reach, and it's very good. Let me tell you about it. Mythic Jackie managed to, in my opinion, humble opinion, managed to properly do the balancing and everything that is what's basically needed for the Halo Reach, and I dare to say even in some other games and Halo franchise that he worked on. Now, what the whole mod does is very simple. It rebalances gameplay with guns, ammo, HP, type of weapons that you're using, and your enemies and their abilities as well. Therefore, it's making a proper Covenant force rather than just horde of elites, horde of grunts, and shushing them forward to meet you. And I think, in my humble opinion, definitely, that in this mod is actually making a proper rebalancing of difficulties. There is no plus minus in HP pools, but proper rebalancing regarding types of the enemies that you will face, and some of the enemies will have some exotic weapons that can easily one-shot you and make your life difficult. Now first, regarding the requirements for the mod. The trick is, this mod doesn't require a beefy GPU or a beefy CPU. If you manage to have a semi-decent PC back in 2016 or 2017 of the mid-range qualities, you can definitely run this game without any problem and the mod itself. So, once I tell you about all of this, the gameplay and the story is not changed. Basically, the story stays the same. You are there as a Noble 6, a Spartan that needs to do some difficult job, and in the end, one by one of these Spartans are going down. Only June stays alive by saving Halsey, and your final mission is to deliver Cortana to Master Chief and Pillar of Autumn. After that, you go down fighting, basically, and unfortunately you couldn't hide based on the lore itself, and you are the last guy standing on Reach, definitely at the end, and unfortunately the Covenant gets you at the end. Now we have basically different weapons with different type of damage, different shots that you can make against the enemy, but be careful, the enemy can use the same weapons against you. Before I go for the full of the weapons, let me just talk about something easier and which is way more smaller than other things, and those are the mods. The mods in this game basically are making your extra stuff more extra. You are not just running faster, you can hit harder, you can lock your shields, make a bubble shield, have even a third-person camera if you really want to, and not to mention and forget about the extended infrared sight that you have now as your visor option, and this thing definitely helps you out identify enemies more easily, especially if you're playing on lower visual quality. And the turrets on the dropships this time around can be destroyed, which will reduce the incoming fire from the enemy during gameplay. Before, the turrets were pretty much invulnerable, you had to basically clear up the enemies and force the dropship to go away, and he will just keep on pounding you. This time around this thing is a bit more realistic, and if the turret is exposed you can definitely take it out. Before I start talking about ranged weapons, let me just tell you about a couple of melee weapons. This time around you have the things that can be melee weapons, which are your standard plasma sword, your standard battle hammer that you can find from kinetic hammer that you can find from the enemy brutes, and also there is on one place a machete, basically the same machete from your logo of the Halo game, and this time around you can use it as a standard melee weapon. Unfortunately, it's mostly a meme weapon rather than an effective weapon, and I'm unfortunately having to say that. I don't like when I have to go all the crazy across the battlefield and get shot like an idiot while trying to charge a wall of enemy fire. Sorry, not crazy like that. And also one more weapon that is explosives. You cannot unfortunately take the spike grenades at the moment. They are not implemented in the game. but the enemy can throw them at you. I mean, not the vortex, but the spike grenades are definitely there, which the brutes use. You can only unfortunately use standard HE grenades and your standard plasma grenades. You can find around coils that are basically placed, the coils from Halo 4, no, the Halo 4, sorry, for Halo Infinite, that are placed all around the game, and you can detonate them from afar and use them as explosive barrels and improvise some explosives on the enemy, and you can toss them around and use them like grenades. But be careful when holding them in your hands, enemy fire can easily trigger them and kill you that way, or if you drop it too close to yourself, you can definitely blow yourself apart. When it comes to weapons, basically, you have your vanilla weapons, which are mostly, you know, bland. Plasma pistol, assault rifles, some of the plasma assault rifles. You have your standard DMR, battle rifle, and anything else in between, mixed in, as well as a rocket launcher. And your pistol. Now the trick is very simple. Your pistol and your standard kinetic damaging shots were kinetic. Now you have addition of new stuff, which are now armor piercing. They can be high explosive, and they can be very devastating to the enemy. You can also find some special power weapons based on the certain enemies. When they drop in, you are basically treated as power weapons, like your Magnum with high explosive, your assault rifles, and everything else in between. Also, for some Covenant weapons, now the Grunts can sometimes drop some ammo boxes. You can pick them up and continue firing onwards. For example, for a plasma carabine. Another trick is for the plasma carabine, when they hit, you have the toxic radiation damage. We can stack up over time. Also, fuel rods also deal with the same lingering effects of the damage, and as well as the fuel rod cannons that hunters use. So be careful when facing these enemies. On later stages, the enemies will use, especially Jackal snipers, will be using carabines that were basically the needle rifles, or elongated needle rifles, which can snipe you over long distances. Sometimes, rarely, you have those standard beam snipers which were present in Halo 2 with the Jackals. So be careful what you're facing when you're facing what, and what kind of engagement you need to properly assess. Which brings us to armor-piercing weapons that basically go through and have a chance of maiming the enemy and basically cutting the limbs off. The armor-piercing weapons are pretty hard, pretty devastating. They can go through some specialized armor, and they can be very lethal for the long-range headshots, especially if you're using them as a sniper, which has armor-piercing, semi-armor-piercing round that can easily one-shot an enemy elite over the long distances, especially if you go for the headshot or bullseye shots. Should I talk about my favorite weapon in this game is Magnum from Halo Combat Evolved. This thing has bloody punch and I love it. Basically this thing is the king among all weapons. It's small, compact, carries decent amount of ammo, and it's very versatile against heavier opponents that can make trouble for you. And this time around you can make trouble for them by just pumping them full of lead, which explodes on contact. Of course, don't forget, the standard plasma weapons from the vanilla Halo do less damage to the armor and more damage to shields. So if you want to go over and start combining weapons, you might go with one with the plasma, where you drop enemy shields, and with the other kinetic to kill the enemy HP points. But I have to disclose, basically I was playing on normal difficulty because I want to have the game done in less than 12 hours, basically, if I want to keep my mental sanity in check. That's very short a description about the weapons. Be careful also, you can use those weapons to arm your allies as well. What you have as a result is very simple. Your allies back in vanilla, for example Marines, did absolutely almost no damage to the enemy. Very little damage actually. Now they do different damage, at least they do at least the regular type of damage. The trick is they are not as accurate as your Spartans, and of course they're not as accurate as a proper player. So when arming your allies, keep in mind that the high explosive weapons can definitely do damage also to you if you arm them with a rocket launcher or a plasma launcher or a fuel rod. Basically, you are risking to get friendly fired by your own allies. And now when I was talking about weapons and allies and everything else in between, let's start about the meat of the things, and these are the enemies. When it comes to your enemies, basically this time around you have them properly rebalanced, and I like this mod a lot because of that. This time around you have an experience where you are facing a proper army, and the army against you is, or should I say, organized based on ranks, titles, and anything else in between. This time around you have your grunts as grunts, which don't have any shields, and I'm starting about grunts, and the grunts can easily have additional armor on them, additional shielding, additional weapons, for example fuel rods and anything else, as well as camo cloaks. So basically they can be camouflaged and you won't be able to see them unless you pay your attention pretty carefully. As well as the grunts that they have to do suicide runs to appease the gods or something and take you down with them. Keep in mind the grunts will still scatter because they are still the quote-unquote chaff of your enemy forces and they are in large numbers. If you take out an enemy elite, they'll still scatter, but this time they will rally a bit more quickly because this time around they have a quote-unquote leader among grunts which will gather them. He has personal shielding, not as good as an elite, but definitely it's there, as well as some armored helmets. And if you're trying to do a headshots on them, you'll have to take out that helmet and then take out an enemy grunt. After grunts, I'm gonna talk about some of the classes that changed a very little. They are not much impacted in this current version of the mod, but maybe they'll work on them, maybe he won't, I'm not sure. Those are the buggers. Buggers are still in the game, they are appearing only on 2 levels in game, and they are annoying. They are not something special, they are swarming you with these attacks. Basically a bunch of them with plasma pistols and flying all the way around, so you have to very much do some trick shotting in order to take them down. And as we take down the enemy buggers, this time around we are going to the Jackals, the maximum amount of flanking. These guys like to flank, they like to use their shields on the frontal area when they have to. They're also the enemy snipers when needed, and there are sometimes commanders and assassins, you know. And the trick is, commanders in what kind of form? Basically, they like to use the mimic beacons, or not, it wasn't the mimic beacon, it was the... yeah, sorry, hologram, the as well as your Spartans and yourself can use the hologram to lure enemies and make them do silly decisions. This time around, pay some attention because the enemy Jackals can do the same, especially because they are, quote-unquote, several of them are leaders and they can use this as an option to distract you when they are retreating or reloading or maybe flanking your ass. Now the Jackals in this mod are definitely way more buffed. But what also is buffed and uses some of the mods to increase their HP, regeneration, shields and everything else are the brutes. This time around the brutes are having some extra stuff for them. They have specialists that can be stealthed, they can go very close to you, they can use shotguns, smaller shotguns, which are pretty much devastating up close, and you need to take them out before they even get close to you. Of course you can use these shotguns, but they're very rare with ammo and they're scattered a lot of places. So the only brute with the shotgun that I was abusing was the brute at the end of the game, because the brute leader had a pretty much devastating shotgun with incendiary ammo, and it was a penicillin against enemies that want to go up close against you. you'll see the enemy brutes glowing red, glowing green. They will have their HP buffed, their shields buffed, their survivability increased. They are definitely there. They have the special weapons. They have their options to deal against you. They have their Jackal snipers as a backup. They are there, definitely in force, and you will regret if you're not being careful against them. They are also very devastating in close-up engagements. They don't need a sword to take you down in one hit. They are brutes, and take them out from the distance. Well, you might try to go with the Berserk mode on and try to melee them if you really want to, or use a special weapon, for example, steal their own kinetic hammers and set them ablaze to the flamer if you manage to get it on the last level when you're defending the landing pad. Then you might have some effect against them. Some polar weapons, of course, can definitely have weapon effects that are very good against anybody. Now let me just talk about the guys called Hunters. You know them? Hunters in this game are pretty not much interesting now, because they have some of their varieties. This time around you can take out their cannons and leave them only with the shield arm. And when you leave them only with the shield arm, they're going to full berserk mode and they are getting enraged, especially after you, on top of that, kill one of them, because they always go in pairs. And they are devastating. If they get close to you, they can one-shot you pretty easily. And they can also one-shot you from a distance if you're not careful. The best way to deal with them is to get behind them or use an armor-piercing weapon, high explosive weapon, and my favorite one, the Magnum pistol with high explosive rounds. If not, well, definitely use high explosive rockets or something like that to take them out. Use their own cannons after that against them, if you can lure them away from their cannons when they drop them after you maim them, basically after you destroy one of their arms. They will charge you, you can use your speed option and get there and take out the cannon and go from range at them and take him out that way. Now, on top of all those things, we have the proper elites. This time around we have an elite with only sword and shield. This guy is pretty much a melee option, and he can also drop plasma grenades as a ranged attack. The trick is, this guy likes to leap a lot, he's very active in to get close up and slice and dice you. It's yellow based in its color, and also, well, as I said before, he has a shield and an option called Scatter Shield. These things can definitely block some of the incoming fire, so I definitely don't recommend to face this guy in a very tight alley, otherwise you'll be just chopped into small bits. But also, keep in mind, the elites have some secret weapons and moves, as well as the regular elites, blue ones. The trick is, if you go with the melee and you start missing them, they're gonna go in rage mode, and if not pumping you full of plasma shots, they will just draw their plasma knives, I mean swords, and slice you, dice you that way. The elites in the game definitely have their places as well as the others. They are now more varied. They have proper roles and proper weapons to follow them. They have their power weapons, they have their shields, they have their swords, they have the specialists that are roaming around and trying to make your life miserable as well. So taking elites also makes others panic, from Jackals and Grunts, for example. Brutes won't panic at all. They luckily don't have the charge options like in Halo 2. I'm thinking mostly about brutes. So elites cannot influence them at all. The elites are the class from the cells. If the enemy elite is under constant fire, he'll try to back up and go into cover so he can regenerate his shields, go for backup even, and even use some abilities if it's possible. So for example, he can use drop shields, bubble shields, overshielding, anything else in between in order to counter you or your allies. Sometimes the elites will be so much set near the Kuragak engineers. Yes, they are in the game, they are very rarely in the game, but on certain places they are buffing elite additionally, which just charges elite with more confidence to attack you and be more aggressive. So this time around the AI is definitely on the good side for the elites, especially when they have the advantage. They won't be afraid to press it to the maximum. To finish up with the enemies and their weapons, I'll just mention one faction that is actually neutral. It appears only in one mission. That's when you have to defend Halsey's lab against oncoming rush of the Covenant, and you have to detonate the charges in order to bury the ancient ship that is located down below, which contains a lot of ancient tech that is very, very advanced and can give humanity a fighting chance against the Covenant. Of course, it's all stored in Cortana, all the way there. There a third faction that appears called Sentinels. Yeah, basically, Jackie added the Sentinels in this game, and they are definitely very good, and they add a lot of chaos inside of the enemy Covenant and as well shooting at you from time to time. You can take their Sentinel beams away from them and then use them on the Covenant. It's very useful to take down enemy shields and moderately useful against enemy health. But if you keep your beam long enough on a certain enemy, you'll have to take him down. Therefore, I do wish actually that there was a chance to increase the number of Sentinels throughout the game, but we all know it will be pushing our luck. And I think Jackie wisely decided to keep the Sentinels only for this part of the mission. Therefore, that's the third faction that is definitely there. They're only the basic Sentinels, nothing too fancy at the moment. So keep on playing the other games to see what else is there. I almost forgot about one thing after the enemies, the vehicles. The vehicles in this game are your standard vanilla stuff, which you had even before. Now the trick is you have some, maybe one or two extras, that's all basically, and they are definitely there. Gun Hog, basically your standard Hog, Warthog basically. You have the Missile Hog, Gauss Hog, you have your Scorpion tank, you have your Rat tanks, you have your Banshees, you have your own additionals from the, ghosts and everything else that can be used and abused if you really want to. The vehicles now can be also destroyed without destroying the vehicle, quote unquote, by killing their own occupants. You can disable enemy Banshees from the sky and then board them and take them out that way with your plasma pistol. You can also, if you are skillful enough, destroy enemies that are occupying enemy Rat tank and basically cripple it that way. So you can take it, maybe do some serious damage to the enemies that way. Now the trick is, will you having enough patience to do all that or not is up to you. Sometimes you are forced, sometimes you're not forced. Always you have some new options to deal with the enemy. Of course, there is the vanilla mission with the chopper where you are going into side objectives, which is pretty interesting. And unfortunately, we don't have those side objectives or expanded maps like we have in SPV 3.3 that were worked by a whole team of modders for a certain amount of years. And unfortunately this time around we only have the vanilla because of course Jackie is a one-man army basically, and he's doing maximum he can. The trick is I would like to have another SPV 3.3 on other games of Halo franchise, because I got lazy and the mods are very good, better than vanilla actually. The Mongols is the unarmed version, the Gankuz is the armed version with 2 machine guns, 2 grenade launchers. Pretty much this thing is pretty awesome to drive and it's pretty hard to steer as well, so I recommend some practice before you go on and push it to the limit basically. What Shiki unfortunately cannot do much is the space battles. The space battles are basically 2 short missions when you have to board a corvette. The tricky back here thing is you cannot do much about this sandbox. He added 2 extra weapons. One of them is a good one, that is the laser. The laser devastates enemy setup fighters. It basically leaves them immobile. But trick is if they go head on against you, you can collide with them and destroy your shields if you're not dodging them, Yeah, even on higher difficulties you can just smash into them and go bye-bye. The trick is very simple. Disable their shields and their options with the laser, switch to your guns or your missiles and finish them off that way. You now have another gun that you can use. Those are the Gauss weapons. Unfortunately, the aiming with those things is not properly implemented, and I think it leaves quite a lot to be wished for. I'm not sure how to basically use them, unfortunately, and might be my own fault, but I think they could be better implemented, unfortunately. So, one thing good, one thing a bit bad, not too sad to be honest, and I'm happy how the things turned out. He was constrained with what he had to do with and what kind of options he can play with, so yeah. Maybe it's better to keep it stable gameplay rather than add a bunch of stuff that can just keep crashing upon each other. And to wrap it up, basically what is good, what is bad in this game. As I said before, the guns that were implemented in the game regarding space battle is a bit iffy. Of course, the space battle was never the best part of even vanilla experience, so it would be damn hard to improve it in the constraints he had in the mod creation. The second thing, which is a pretty bad, unfortunately, a missed opportunity in my opinion, is the assault rifle with the grenade launcher slang under it. The grenade launcher, unfortunately, cannot be used, and I wished it could on the PC. I think you can use it on PC if you're playing with, gamepad. I'm not gonna play my FPSs with a gamepad if I can bloody help it, because there is a rule of the FPS, the king is mouse and keyboard, which is way easier to play FPS games with that thing than with the bloody gamepad. Gamepad for me is definitely very good. Some RPGs, maybe some racing games, and definitely it's very good in fighting games. Now that the small rant is over, basically the trick is I haven't experienced many crashes. Some of you might experience a bit more crashes based on your graphic cards, your system specs. The trick is most of those things are not noticeable. The trick is I haven't managed to properly test out co-op, and I'm not sure if this thing works properly. Does it crash? Does it not crash? In single player mode, it definitely works with it as a charm. And regarding everything else in the game, I think these are the ends of the negativities I can spew back at the mod itself. So about the positivities, let me just say basically this mod is awesome. I cannot play vanilla anymore because of this game. And the trick is very simple. Vanilla is now feeling like a stripped down version of the mod, because the mod doesn't violate the lore or the stories, and basically the lore is there scattered in some data pads around the gameplay itself. So you can go way more immersive. Plus, as I said before, the enemy forces are definitely structured as a proper army this time around. You feel it when you play it, and the weapons that you can use now you definitely are there for you and your enemies as well. So those things that Jackie just expanded are giving this game a lot of replayability. Yeah, you can play it again and again and try out different things, different weapons, different weapon combinations to have your experience. And even if you are mad lad, you can use a machete to go through the levels. I mean, seriously, really. So to conclude, play this mod. Download it from the ModDB, download it from Steam, wherever you like it, just bloody do it. I cannot give Jackie any support other than this video at the moment, because I'm a broke and I live in Balkans. Our salaries are fucking shit, and that is sad story. Anyway, thank you everybody for watching. If links are gonna be down below for the mods, mod creator, and his Steam page, and anything else in between. All I can say, thank you for watching. If you managed to stick this far into the video, my heart goes to you. Tell me about what should I improve in these videos, where I should keep more attention at, what kind of approach should I make for you to make you love this channel. And hopefully I'll see you again very soon, or maybe once a month at least, because life is hectic, not sure how it's gonna be going. You know, just live in the moment. That's the best I can, the advice I can offer. Till then, stay safe, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye bye.